Greetings, this is Frosty Thunderdrod, and today I'm going to talk about the Ashes Creation December livestream, the Alpha 2 Ranger update. I won't talk the numbers on the specific abilities shown, because those will change throughout Alpha and Beta. Instead, I will talk about the mechanics behind them. Let's start off by talking about the differences on what I was hoping the Ranger would be and what was shown. Stephen and Margret said you can do a melee ranger and UI has a swap weapon button, but only range abilities were shown. So the skirmisher style of combat I prefer seems to be possible. The ranger plays very different from other archetypes so far shown, almost to the point I would think they're from a different game. The ranger does not have an animal companion, but you can get one through the artisan system of animal husbandry. Also, it is likely possible to get one by combining the ranger with a summoner to become a beastmaster, a summoner ranger, or a falconer, a ranger summoner. There is no minimum range for ranged weapons, and you can use most ranged abilities while on the movie. One power demonstrated had its effect changed based on the range, where if you're up close, it is a single target ability. If you're at longer range, it becomes an AoE. Hunts and marks. Hunts apply buffs to the rangers, and some attack abilities change based on what hunt you have available. Marks apply debuffs to your target. Marks can be dual cast with attacks, and your attacks can change abilities based on what marks are on your target. Only one mark can be applied at a time, but they can be switched freely, so as you're going through your DPS rotation, you might be changing your mark you have applied for each shot you take. Imbue arrows. Before you attack, you can imbue your arrows with special abilities like armor penetration, snare, or extra damage. I don't know if the imbue weapon, the mark, and the snare, and the hunt will all stack, because they all have very similar abilities, so I don't know if you'll be able to, combine, armor penetration, armor penetration, armor penetration, or if you'll have to use like one on each, or if maybe you can do two in one. That's something we'll have to find out later on. Traps. Stephen demonstrated one trap, but indicated there is more than one trap. Traps can be placed within a long range of the ranger, and traps have a duration. You can drop more than one, depending on how long the cooldowns were. In the live stream, cooldowns were shut off for most of the time, so I don't know how long the cooldown is on a trap. But it is, in theory, possible that if the cooldown is 10 seconds and the duration is 30 seconds, you can probably have two traps down at once. You won't be able to get three that way, because then the first one will be done as soon as you drop the third one. Also, I don't know if all the traps share the same cooldown or each trap has an individual cooldown. For utility spells, Stephen demonstrated a CC break to also give you a short run speed buff. There was a disengage that first makes you leap backwards away from your target, but can be trained up with skill points so that you can control the direction you leap. This does not break or remove CC, but it will still work while you're CC'd. So if you're snared or rooted and they're running away from you, you can actually disengage towards the enemy to stay within range if you want, as opposed to just jumping away to get out of danger. For single target damage, there are three purely single target damaging abilities. And the single target abilities have the most interaction with the hunts and the marks. One is a charge up and shoot for a large damage. This is clearly an opener. The next one is a power that fires a lot of weak shots in a row, like a machine gun. This seems to be intended to wear down the target's HP, so it is a mid-rotation attack. Last one is an attack that deals more damage if the target is below 50%. Clearly a finisher. There's also that attack that changes between a single target or an AoE, which might be woven in depending on if you need an extra attack while you're waiting for the cooldown on your barrage. AoEs. There are 4 AoE attacks plus the one that changes between single target and AoE. The first one is an ability that can be fired quickly, has a cone, or you can charge it up and fire it in a line, which conveniently is showing right now. When it's fired in a line, it does more damage. The next one is a pure cone. This one fires quickly and hits every target within the cone every time. There's also an ability where the ranger fires a number of arrows up into the air and they land within a circle on the ground. Where each arrow lands in the circle is randomly determined. And if the target is within the circle, they might get hit by multiple arrows or they might get hit by no arrows depending on the random roll of where the arrows land. Next is a AoE attack that has movement incorporated into it. This one, you jump into the air and do an anime style, twist, firing 3 arrows down at the ground below you. Each one of these arrows, when it hits, bursts to deal AoE damage. So if your target stays in the area of effect for all 3 bursts, it does quite a bit of damage. And then, of course, there's the ability that is either a single target at close range or a ranged ability or an AoE at long range. To conclude, the ranger shows a clear pattern of choosing between easy and reliable with low damage abilities and high damage abilities with some extra effort required. Like that jumping attack I just described. Now, if you got a group of enemies, you try to do this jumping attack. If you're not paying attention to where you're going to land at, you might land right in the middle of a group of enemies and just be cut to pieces by melee relatively quickly. It seems quite clear, too, that 3 or more rangers working together, focusing their fire, can delete just about anything. I imagine boss monsters could probably, hold up to that. But Stephen by himself was able to cut through a player tank character pretty darn easily. So I can imagine in PvP, if you got 3 rangers, they're all set up, to coordinate their opening attack and then their follow-up attack on the same target at the same time, they would just remove any player, even a tank or even a healer would just be removed from the game. I don't think the ranger will make a good alt because of all these separate mechanics. There's so much more detail and intricacy into the ranger that I think you're going to have to main the ranger in order to be able to use it really well. I mean, sure, you can probably dabble in it, for something different. But if you want to take this thing into PvP for a node contest or something, you're going to want to put some serious time into playing it to be able to use your abilities. And it's probably going to be a bit of a high cap to really be a truly great Master Ranger. So, thank you very much for watching.